Welcome to the Creepin' It Real show, your one-stop shop for weird news, spooky, otherworldly, and paranormal shenanigans. We'll take a dive into what's going on in creepy pop culture. You can follow us on Twitter at creepin_it and like us on Facebook at The Creepin' It Real Show. Do you have a paranormal story you'd like to share with us? You can email us at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com.
Welcome back to the Creepin' It Real show. I am one of your hosts of the most, Christy. This week we have both of my other co-hosts. Yay, Yardley, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Everything's good here in Atlanta, Georgia. I can't complain. Hey, you know what? Real quick, I actually went and I had my first 4DX experience watching Bad Boys for Life.
Oh, yeah. How was that?
The movie was great, but that 4DX experience it's pretty cool. That's the thing that has the seats that move and the lights that flash.
Nice.
It's so cool. It's really a little bit more than I thought it would be. In my head, I just thought, the seats will just vibrate or something like that. But these seats are it's almost like riding a roller coaster. Like they go up, they go down, they swerve from left and right. So
wow.
So it's is it kind of like Universal Studios or something?
It's on steroids. It's pretty dope. It's pretty dope just only because I could see somebody who wasn't ready that could get taken out of the movie by it, because it literally, there were scenes in that movie where they were in boats in the water and the seats spray water.
Oh, I'd probably throw up, honestly, with all that motion.
But I think that if anybody gets a chance, I definitely endorse 4DX. But it was an interesting experience and the movie was great. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Where can you see that in Atlanta? I've never even heard of it.
They've got one in Atlantic Station.
Ah, okay.
It just literally started, I think, in December. I think Rise of Skywalker was probably one of the first things that they used with it, and I think Bad Boys might be the next one that they used. Mm-hmm. But it's pretty cool. So I would be interested in maybe seeing some type of a horror thing in it, because it's interactive to where if lights are flashing in the movie, they're flashing in the theater. Mm-hmm. So it's weird. I would love to have that and 3D at the same time.
Wow.
So that's the next venture.
Just live in the movie.
That's the next step.
The thing that's extra cool about it is the fact that half of you're going to laugh because, you're not used to doing all of that stuff. So you're going to be laughing, but also part of the appeal is looking around and see everybody else kind of reacting, in their seats. So it's pretty cool. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. 4DX, go see it. Bad Boys for Life, go see it. It was this movie was way better than I think that anybody would think that it deserved to have been, because you'll be I don't want to say pessimistic, because I love the first two. But I really went in. I was like, man, this is way better than I thought. And the movie's almost made back the money that they paid, to make it over the weekend. So that's insane. So it's doing well, and they're plotting a number 4 already.
Well, I wouldn't imagine that Will Smith would do anything unless, it was going to be a good story, because he's at that point now where he can be picky like that. So if he's in it, they had to make sure it was going to be really good.
Yeah, well, I just want to throw that out there. It was definitely fun. So
yeah, you know what? That reminds me of the Universal Studios ride. It was my favorite Disney ride ever, called Soar, and it is basically it's like you're in a hang glider. And you sit in these seats, and it's inside. It's in a huge warehouse, and your feet are dangling, kind of like the Six Flags roller coaster here that I think it's Superman or something. Not Superman, but Batman Returns or whatever. But anyway, you go up into the air and you're basically hang gliding through the coast of California. And you're when you're in the forest, you're almost feels like your feet are going to touch the tops of the pine trees. You smell the pine. And it smells, and it's so real. Yeah. And you're going up and down and flying around, and it's unbelievable. how it feels. This is what it sounds like to me. Like they've brought that into movie theaters, which is freaking genius.
It's crazy because another thing that the 40X thing does is like in action sequences when like, people are shooting at each other, like this bursts of air like come from the chair and it makes it seem like it's flying past your head. And then when you mentioned the smell-o-vision, there was a 40X theater. I actually saw it where it was like a movie where something farted in the movie and then it sprayed out this stuff that smelled like farts. It's almost like this, but it's definitely cool, y'all. Like I would totally recommend people go see things in 40X. However, I don't think that 40X show in like matinees. I think you have to pay the full.
Oh, hell yeah.
So you have to pay the full price, but it's totally worth a go. I mean, if you're an adult, you're going to be laughing like you're 11 years old in these chairs. Mm-hmm. But I think the whole thing, it's just, I don't know, like you literally have to press a button to say turn off the water because when the water scene comes, it's over.
It's like Gallagher with the watermelon.
So I'm like, why the fuck am I in the theater like drying my fucking glasses off?
You got to wear one of those ponchos.
Yeah.
That's
I'm sure they love cleaning the theaters after those too.
No,
there's like water and
the food.
There was this girl, like basically when the before the movie starts, they have a sequence where it basically gets you used to it. It's like in a commercial format, but it gets you used to what you're going through to kind of show you the extremes of what the chair can do. So there were tons of people, the people who show up late and didn't get the introduction into it. Let me tell you something. There was popcorn flying everywhere from this young lady. And this one guy had this big thing of fries. And when the car chase happened, it was over. Like them fries was all over. So like Moni is saying, like, I know if you work there, that probably has to be a terror. You know what I'm saying?
They should have like an eating period. Like, okay, now is the time you can eat because there's not a lot of like car chases and water. And then, okay, hurry up and put your food away.
$50 for food at the theater.
That's what I'm saying. You get those nachos and that water starts flying in there and it's like, oh God.
Do not mess with my nachos. So I'll be honest with you. When I saw you on Instagram talking about you were going to this theater, I had no idea what this was. And so when you're like, I'm in 40X or whatever the hell you were talking about, I'm like, how much more good quality can these fucking screens get? Jesus, I didn't know it was like interactive. I thought it was some new like now even more improved screen quality.
And I'm sorry, I didn't want to derail the show, but I had to put that out there because I definitely want both of you to go and try it, and then we'll.
It's on. I'm going. I'm definitely going.
I mean, the ticket was I think it was $23, $24.
Oh, that's not bad.
Wow, no.
So it's not ridiculous. The only reason why I got it is I was looking for certain. I was like, should I see this in IMAX or whatever? And then I looked and it said 40X, and then I saw interactive experience, and it was like $2 or $3 more than the other things. So, whatever. And now I'm like, I'm all about the 40X. Like I don't even want to go to.
Going is ruined now.
Exactly, but I've ruined your intro to the show.
No, you did not. I love hearing about this. I had never heard of it, and now I can't. Rick and my daughter are recovering from the worst stomach flu ever. Like I've been taking care of them for 2 days straight, and I totally want to go with him, but I'm not going to take him yet.
That's what I was going to say. That's the last thing you want to do if both of them have the stomach flu is go to 40X. Bubble Butt Central, like
oh my God,
some clenched cheeks.
I can't wait to take everybody. Jay, you know what? I should take Jay. He would freaking love it. Oh, I might take him tonight. I'm so excited. Well, thank you for sharing it because I'm totally doing it tonight. He'll love it. And it'll be something that he can come home and brag to his sister about because, his sister's older and gets to do all this stuff. And he's, not there yet. So she's always having all the first experiences. So it'll be great for him to come home and be like, hey.
You should. I mean, and I don't even know, because you know how we roll. Like, we'll get a nice buzz, watch the movie. Yeah. And I almost feel like, depending on the movie, like I would not recommend to be drunk and to go to 40X with like a Godzilla movie because
God,
yeah, like you're gonna lose. You just wasted $30 on like
even in your popcorn bucket. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
wow. Well, awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. I'm totally I'm going to see if I can get in there tonight and see if I can take him. So with that, Moni, how are you doing?
I mean, I have nothing that can top that.
No
really,
shit.
Moni's like, I was at work.
Yeah. Working, then I was working. And then anyway, but things are good. We have some sunshine here, but it's cold. Probably not comparative to where you are, though. So can't complain.
Awesome. Well, before we get started with the main topic, I wanted to say thank you to everybody for listening. We've had a huge influx of reviews and likes and ratings on our iTunes account. So thank you guys for taking the time to do that. It really, really does make a difference to our show. We've said this before, and we'll keep saying it, that we all three have full-time jobs and families and responsibilities. So we don't spend the time that a lot of podcasters do marketing our show. So your help really matters to us and makes a huge difference. So thank you for listening. And sharing is caring. So share us with your friends and anyone who loves horror and true crime, because we cover it all. And that's why we like doing what we do. We don't typecast ourselves into one topic. We talk about all the crazy shit. So with that, if you listened last week to part 1 of Stephanie Crow, Who Killed Stephanie Crow, we will have a bonus episode on our Patreon for literally the price of a cup of coffee a month. You can listen to our Patreon or watch our videos, and Moni will be talking about part 2, where she gets really, really in depth with this one. The first episode was basically covering the case and the suspects. Part 2 will be, she actually had personal conversations with people who knew the Crow family. She's in that area, and it was literally, down the street from her old library where all of these things happened. And she unexpectedly had her own personal experience that ended up colliding with this case. So very personal. So we decided to release it on Patreon so that, we can really say what happened and what she went through and what happened with Moni. So with that, literally $3 a month. It's a huge support to us. We are in the process of getting our trademark, and when we pay for that, we will be broke. So every little bit helps, and we really do appreciate everybody's support. Before we get into the main topic, something really weird happened to me last night, and I haven't really quite put my head around it. And as much as I believe all the bullshit and the topics that we talk about, when something happens to me, I'm the biggest skeptic of all. I will overthink it and try to figure out something that makes sense of it to death. Because I just, you really do question yourself over and over and over again when something happens. You know that, Moni. Like when you have an experience, you're like, okay, this one's happening to me. I am now going to figure out what it could be instead of what I think it was. Sure. So I'm going to explain what happened. And it's not as exciting as I'm probably leading up to it, but it was bizarre. Like I said, my kid and Rick have been very sick. And I have been in the house for 2 days straight. So I'm going to go out of town for work next week, and I have a huge presentation to give and to a lot of people, and I'm really nervous about it. So I was like, my wonderful Botox lady agreed to meet me, even though she's not open at her office, and give me a refresher before I do this huge thing I'm about to do. And on the way home, I decided to stop and get Zaxby's for Jay. My son loves Zaxby's chicken. And the Zaxby's is located in a Home Depot shopping center. So you drive into the Home Depot, and then you drive over, and it's just a little store in the parking lot. And as I'm driving into the parking lot to turn to go into Zaxby's, there's these 2 kids standing like in the middle of the parking lot by where like the trailers are and stuff. And it's dark, and it's weird. You can see them like illuminated by the light. And there's 2, one's tall, one's short, almost like they were brothers. And they have hoods over their faces. And I kind of drove by and did kind of a weird double take, but then I was like on my way to Zaxby's. And I was thinking about, why is this like why is this standing out to me? And I couldn't really put my finger on it. So I go through the drive-through, get my food, and then I drive back over there, and they're still there. And it looks like they're walking over to a car that somebody had just gotten into the car. And I still can't see their faces. Their hoods are completely covering their faces. And as I'm looking, I slow down, and as I'm watching them, it like dawns on me, like what's weird about them is their clothes are like, they had hoodies on,
Oh, no.
and they had shorts over pants.
Oh, no.
Over their pants. So they had on pants that were like, almost like khakis or something, like chinos, but basketball shorts over them with a hoodie.
Huh.
And
Inappropriately dressed, in their hoodies.
Weird, yes, with the hoods pulled over so I couldn't see their faces. And I'm just like stopped there, like staring at them. And I realize I'm like stopped in the middle of a parking lot in a very busy, because people are going in and out of Zaxby's trying to get their chicken. And and all of a sudden, I just got this horrible, horrible, sick feeling in the pit of my stomach. And I immediately drove off. And I was thinking, like, screaming, like, in my head, like, to that car, like, run, like, don't.
Yeah.
And I took off. That was it. And that was it. That was what happened. But it was like that feeling of, like, something's not right there.
Yeah.
And it was just so weird. It just wasn't right. It just didn't make any sense to me. I don't know why.
You'd be cozying up to some black-eyed kids there.
I've never had that feeling just looking at some kids in a parking lot.
You should trust a feeling like that is, you already are, pretty sensitive to these things. But a feeling like that is your body's way of being like, this is a bad situation.
Yep.
I would trust that instinct, girl.
I'm literally getting the chills right now just talking about it, remembering the feeling of me watching them walk over to that car and just the way they were walking. And I'm looking at the way they're dressed, and I'm like, why do they have basketball shorts over chino pants? Like, that makes no sense. Like, tan pants with basketball shorts over them. Like, it was the weirdest. Unless I'm not aware of some new fashion craze, like, I just was trying to... and then I realized, okay, they're walking really weird, and they have their hoods pulled way over their faces. It was just bizarre. And so I don't know what happened. Maybe that was their ride, and they're just weird. But the feeling that I got was not good. So there's that. They didn't come to my car. I didn't get to see their faces. I have no idea what happened after I drove off, but it stuck with me. Well, still has. It's still there. And I decided to talk about it because, again, it could have been anything, but I
mean, on the other side, maybe they flew Frontier and they didn't want to pay the carry-on fee, so they were just wearing all their clothes at once. Did you think of that?
That would have been, you know what? That's actually genius. I don't know how the hell they got from the airport, 43 miles up to where my house is, but I don't want to know.
Like a good black-eyed kid, and all the people are dead along the way that they hitchhiked with.
Anyway, so that was that. So we'll move on to our main topic, the Night Marchers. Have you guys ever heard of the Night Marchers, either one of you?
I had not before this.
Yardley, have you?
Until you put me up on it, I hadn't.
You hadn't? Okay. Well, I got married in Hawaii in 2004, so... and that's where I first learned about them. There are many legends on the island of Hawaii. Of course, it's a very, very spiritual place. And you know that the second you walk in. I mean, the traditions and everything are based around ancient Hawaii and what it was before the old Cook family came and took over. Good old white people always taking shit that don't belong to them. There are a lot of different legends, ones that you'll hear of the second you step on. A lot of them that I've even heard of just the small amounts of time that I've been there is the goddess Pele, who tests your heart by posing as a hitchhiker. If you don't pick her up, she realizes that you're a piece of shit and bad things will happen to you. And which I'm like, really? So you're like telling people to pick up hitchhikers? Okay. A faceless redheaded woman roaming the movie theater. That was probably me drinking a little too much, but let's move on. The spirits of Pearl Harbor, of course, and then many, many more other ones that I won't even get into. But literally, and I would say this not to make this as dramatic as possible, but none of these legends are as feared as the Night Marchers. It's Maui is one of my favorite places in the whole world. Maui, Kauai, and Kona are very, very high activity for night marchers. Rick's brother got married there. His dad and his stepmom got married there 35 years ago. We all got married on the island of Kauai. We honeymooned in Maui, and same with them. I mean, we all travel up and down those islands when we go visit. We went back 2 years ago and stayed for a month with the entire family. So it was kind of full circle. His dad and his stepmom, us three couples, married couples, who it's Rick's brother, Rick's sister, and then us and their, partners. And then the 6 grandkids. Between us, there's all 6 grandkids. And it's just not like any place in the world. I mean, I've not been everywhere, but I've been quite a few places around the world, and there's just nothing like Hawaii. The first time Rick and I heard about the night marchers was on our honeymoon. We were in Maui, and we had just finished the road to Hana. And if you've never been to Maui, there's this road that you take, and it's just, you're literally in the middle of nowhere on a mountain, and you read the stories, and you see all these different amazing sights, like Seven Sisters waterfalls, and just, it's amazing. Cliffs, and there's just anything and everything to see. After the road to Hana, we stopped at a bar that happened to be a locals bar, and we overheard these 2 locals talking about a sighting that their friend had. I mean, their friend had told both of them, and they were just kind of discussing it. And this was the first time we had ever been introduced to this legend. The sightings are always really vague because locals know to never look at the procession. Never. They truly believe that you will die if you do. As we will discuss later, when you hear the conch and you hear the drums and you see the torches, you run. Like, that's it. You don't wait around. You don't look to see. And if it's too late to run, you fall to the ground and put your face into the ground. Some people believe you need to strip down and be naked when you fall to the ground.
I actually was just watching the video, and I'll post it to our Facebook so that creepers can watch it as well. But that was kind of funny to me, and I'm sure it's not funny to Native Hawaiians. They're like, if it's already too late, then you strip naked. And I'm like, if it's already too late, I feel like I would run faster than I would strip naked. But what do I know?
Exactly. Yes. And so for some reason, some people strip naked and they believe you should, and some shouldn't. And there's also different types of night marchers. There's different, there were different tribes and different gods and goddesses and all of that. So yeah, so in each island, there's different types of night marchers, and everybody believes something different. But everybody believes that you run, and then if you don't, you put your face in the ground immediately and never look at them. If you ask any Hawaiian, they've either had a firsthand experience with night marchers, or they grew up hearing the conchs in the middle of the night and just knowing it's the night marchers. They're very respected, and in the past they frequent are not touched. They don't build things on them. They don't want to. This is very respected land, and sometimes you'll see people accidentally build a home on the trail. And I saw this over and over again online. I didn't put a lot of them on there because it is what it is. People have literally left their home, just left it there, and never went back after a night marcher experience, because they will just go through your house and crush you, stomp on you, step on you, like whatever. It doesn't matter what's in front of them. They will get through. They got to go through their path. So that's that. So Moni, you want to talk a little bit more about the legend?
Sure. So in Hawaiian legend, night marchers are the deadly ghosts of ancient Hawaiian warriors. While most ghost hunters are out looking for spirits, there are some ghosts that you should never look at. Hawaii's night marchers, the phantoms of ancient Hawaiian warriors, are said to roam the islands at night. In life, these warriors supposedly traveled at night to protect people so sacred that the common man was never allowed to look at them. Breaking that rule meant death. It's dangerous to seek out the marchers. Locals mostly know better. Families who can claim ancestral ties to those particular possessions take the marchers very seriously. Others know well enough to at least respect it. Whatever you do, don't whistle in the dark. Some say you might inadvertently summon the night marchers. And if they arrive, no walls can stop them. The only thing that's been said to cause them to veer from a path is the presence of tea plants, a colorful evergreen plant with widespread cultural significance in Hawaii, planted around a home.
In some instances, you might not notice the marchers approaching. Perhaps a gale force wind drowns out the drums, or you're simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. No matter the scenario, you must hope that the ghost warriors take mercy on you. If not, you'll hear a shriek of, "Oh, I," which means let him be pierced, and that'll be the end of you. But the night marchers respect bloodlines. If you're extremely fortunate, one of the long-dead men will be your distant ancestor, and they'll shout, "Na'u," which means mine, indicating that one of the warriors has recognized you as a descendant. The procession will pass by you without causing you harm. The night marcher's job wasn't to terrorize people. It was simply to protect the most sacred, high-ranking chiefs. The night marchers showed mercy by traveling at night to spare people from harm. It's easy to tell if night marchers are approaching. They carry torches. They march to the thunderous sound of drums. They give warning by sounding a conch shell. That's when you know it's time to run and hide.
So I will go ahead and apologize in advance. A lot of these words are Hawaiian, and I am definitely not Hawaiian, and nor is any other host on the show. So if we butcher the names, I apologize to the Hawaiian people. I just am ignorant and cannot pronounce these words. So apologies in advance. If you're already in the path of the Night Marchers Trail, legend dictates you must strip naked and lie face down, which, by the way, yes, here it is. There's a rumor that peeing on yourself will keep you alive. Whatever you decide to do, don't look at them. So apparently some people say if you pee yourself, that is basically a sign to them that you're scared shitless. And so they'll take pity on you and be like,
accurate,
okay.
So.
I was about to say, look at me and Moni running and peeing. But we got that fucking covered.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. I would piss myself if I had to come across something like that. The night
Mom
marchers,
bladder saves your life.
Exactly. Thank you, Mom Bladder. The night marchers are said to frequent sacred Hawaiian grounds, such as sites of sacrificial temples and other areas of Oahu, including Yokohama Bay. Oh, here we go. Sorry. The Kamehameha III Summer Mansion, Mahakaha Valley Plantation, and Kaina Point and Kalama Valley. There's even a night marcher's path that goes through the armory inside the Diamond Head crater. In downtown Honolulu, there's reportedly a night marcher's trail that runs through the footprint of the Davies Pacific Center. In 2012, attorneys on the 23rd floor claimed that the building's security cameras captured the night marchers on video. A native Hawaiian cleaning lady was reportedly doing her job at night when the column of mist appeared. The woman died the next day. The following month, someone claimed to have seen the ghost of the lady marching with the night marchers and disappearing on the other side of the wall.
Don't know if it's true, but that's a rad story.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. The night marchers are said to march on the last 4 Hawaiian moon phases before the moon goes completely dark. These warriors are believed to be eternally fated to march the islands, seeking their next battle. They are most active at night, but also have been reported to be seen during the day. No structure deters their path, and as a result, they're often seen walking right through buildings. Since Hawaiian was the only spoken language at the time of Western contact, the first written account of the night marchers was by Captain Cook in 1883. He described various sightings of the ghost soldiers and the spirit of King Kamehameha the Great while on the Big Island. Cook wasn't the only one who claimed to see the frightening ghosts of the night. Indeed, the legends of the night marchers are still told throughout Hawaiian Islands today, with more than a few locals who proclaim they are not just a fairy tale. Across the island chain, residents have reported seeing a line of torches moving down the mountains, many times in areas where sheer cliffs and no roads or trails for miles. Some say the night marchers leave just their footprints behind, while others claim they float above the ground without leaving a trace. In either case, the universal understanding among believers is you should never cross a night marcher's path.
As legend tells it, any unfortunate mortal who hears the warning sounds of a nearby procession should run and hide or lie down on the ground to let them pass. But most importantly, follow the ancient Kapu and never make eye contact or face the ultimate consequence. The legend evolved from a cultural matrix that encompassed information passed on orally or from writings about non-phantom Hawaiian daytime and nighttime processions of the late 18th and early 19th centuries following Captain Cook's arrival in 1778. Foreigners continued writing about the traditional and the transitional culture into the 19th century. In the marches were living human beings, some of whom were led by a man or a woman of such high rank as to be considered divine, and by men carrying images of gods of both sexes. Hawaiians believed the marchers might include gods, goddesses, family guardian gods, and spirits of dead kinfolk who assumed either material or spectral forms visible to human onlookers. In the old culture, a chief and his followers marched to battle arrayed in feather cloaks, helmets, and other finery. In the chief's personal party were his wife, closest friends, and bearers of stick images representing his gods. Also in his procession were the general, priests, astrologers, as well as variously trained, equipped, and specialized ranks of warriors. Observers of phantom marchers frequently identify them as the spirits of a chief and his warriors.
So since we've brought up Captain Cook, not a lot of people know who he is or what he did. So I thought I would give just a little bit of a brief story about Captain Cook. On January 18th in 1778, the English explorer Captain James Cook became the first European to travel to the Hawaiian Islands when he sails past the island of Oahu. 2 days later, he landed at Waimea in the island of Kauai and named the island group the Sandwich Islands in honor of John Montagu, who was the Earl of Sandwich and his patrons. So, they already had a name, but he went ahead and named them the Sandwich Islands. That sounds so much better than Hawaii, not? Anyway, Cook and his crew were welcomed by the Hawaiians, who were fascinated by European ships and their use of iron. Cook provisioned his ships by trading the metal, and his sailors traded iron nails for sex. Interesting little bit of trade there. The ships then made a brief stop at Niahu and headed north to look for the western end of a northwest passage from the North Atlantic to the Pacific. Almost 1 year later, Cook's 2 ships returned to the Hawaiian Islands and found a safe harbor in Hawaii's Kaliako Bay. It is suspected that the Hawaiians attached religious significance to the first stay of the Europeans on their islands. In Cook's second visit, there was no question of this phenomenon. Kaliako Bay was considered a sacred harbor of Lono, the fertility god of the Hawaiians. And at the time of Cook's arrival, the locals were engaged in a festival dedicated to Lono. Cook and his compatriots were welcomed as gods for the next month and exploited the Hawaiians' goodwill. After one of the crew members died, exposing the Europeans as mere mortals, relations became strained. On February 4th, 1779, the British ships sailed from Kaliako Bay, but rough seas damaged the foremast of the Resolution, and after only a week at sea, the expedition was forced to return to Hawaii. The Hawaiians greeted Cook and his men by hurling rocks. They then stole a small cutter vessel from the Discovery. Negotiations with King Kaliapiopu for the return of the cutter collapsed after a lesser Hawaiian chief was shot to death and a mob of Hawaiians descended on Cook's party. The captain and his men fired on the angry Hawaiians, but they were soon overwhelmed and only a few managed to escape to the safety of the Resolution. Captain Cook himself was killed by the mob. A few days later, the Englishmen retaliated by firing their cannons and muskets at shore, killing some 30 Hawaiians. The Resolution and Discovery eventually returned to England. So we're going to talk, this is my favorite part always, is talking about people actually telling their stories of experiences that they had with the night marchers. There's a few of these that are kind of long, but I think it's really worth the story, so bear with us.
Oh, yeah. And don't even get me started on how many stories throughout history of different instances of, paleface getting into altercations and killing a lot of native peoples. So anyway.
Hey, still doing it today. So why stop, right? What do we learn?
Exactly.
Nothing.
Why learn? So, as Christy mentioned, experience with the night marchers. This all takes place in Kenai on Maui. My husband, his father, and his friend went fishing. So 3 men were in a boat. It sounds like one of those jokes. There was a small cabin by that they were camping in. There was a small cabin near where they were camping. My husband's friend told him that maybe 200 yards away from the cabin, there was a path leading from there to the beach, and not to walk on it. Use a different path. They were camping on a full moon. His friend said it was okay, that the night marchers would be out on the new moon. He was wrong. The first and only night, my husband was sleeping with his face toward the screen door. He woke up and opened his eyes. A ways from the cabin outside, there was a silhouette with a torch in its hand, and he could hear a drum beat. It started to turn and look at him. As it did, he quickly buried his face back into his pillow, seeing nothing. That morning, he told his friend and dad what happened. Long story short, a 3-day trip turned into a 1-day one. They got the heck out of Dodge. This is enough to make me a believer.
The one night I was fishing at the Maui Kona side, I sat listening to the waves crash on the rocks. I was with a friend, Kyoki. It was about 10 o'clock. Suddenly I heard the sound of a conch shell blowing in the distance. Kyoki heard it too. I thought it was the wind. Then a little while later we heard it again. This time it was a little louder. It was spooky because we didn't see anything. Then we heard it again. We looked towards the Kauai side and then we saw it. It looked like a procession. At first we saw a line of torches in the distance. The procession was moving alongside the coastline. The conch shell blew again. I took out my knife and Kyoki got the rifle. We went seaward and laid down on the lava rock. We knew about night marchers from other fishermen. We knew you aren't supposed to look upon the marchers and to lay on the ground face down. We did this. The marchers passed about 50 yards in front of us on a sand path. As they passed, we could hear the sound of a drum pounding beat by beat. We didn't look up until we were farther down the coast. All we could see now was the line of torches, and all we could hear was the faraway sound of the conch shell. We didn't know if they were going to come back that night, but we didn't want to stick around and see. We got our sleeping bags and made it to the car and went to the Spencer Park to spend the rest of the night. In the morning, we went back and picked up our rigs and equipment that we left behind. That is interesting. I would say that they did the right thing based on the things that we've learned about.
Yeah, I'd get the fuck out of Dodge for sure.
But don't y'all, I mean, it would be so tough.
Not to look. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm the cat that curiosity killed for sure.
You better hope you got enough lives to get through that, I'll tell you. Because...
Well, I need a little clarity on this myth, though. Mm-hmm. It says not to look, and they can't see you?
Yeah,
no, they can see you.
Right?
They can see you, and they know you're there, but if you're face down in the ground, some of them will choose to scan you to see if you are of their ancestry. And most Hawaiians are. So it's not, they get through it. Sometimes they say that you are scanned and they move on. And then if you're not of their ancestry, like this cleaning lady, you die. Something happens to you.
That's
you
what
die
they said
in
the
accident.
video, that also sometimes one of them will call out your name, like one of your ancestors will call your name and then you will be protected, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I just have to, constantly keep on the T-shirt and say, cousin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd be like, death or curiosity,
Exactly.
just piss yourself and keep your face down.
Laverne Stevens is my mama, remember?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Why did you say Martha? They're all Martha.
I would try to adapt a more Hawaiian-sounding name.
Yeah. Martha Lua or
Christine
something.
doesn't sound very Polynesian, so this guy that's telling this story is cussing like a fucking sailor. So just know it's not me inserting these fuck bombs; it's him. And I know our listeners will clutch their pearls because they clearly are listening to us.
Fly,
we were at Manoa Park, hanging outside our cars in the parking lot by the baseball fields. 4 cars of us, about 10 of us there. It's 2:30 a.m. and all of a sudden the entire valley got eerily silent. No frogs, no crickets, no fucking nothing. All of a sudden dogs light up the fucking valley, howling their asses off. I've never heard anything like it because they all howled at the same time. Same tone, same pitch. Every dog in the valley. This went on for a solid minute. Then they all stop at the same time. Not a split second later, we hear it as clear as fucking day. Dum, dun, nana, dum, drums. It's echoed in the valley loud, and it couldn't have been no further than 30 yards from our cars. We hop in the car, start it, and take off. As we're doing that, driver staring at his steering, he sees a driver staring at his steering wheel, praying or some shit. I don't blame him, though. The drum sounds doubled up, and they were right outside our fucking car, but I didn't want to look up or out of the window. I remember the oddest thing, too. As we pulled out of the first intersection, all the lights were green. All of them. Our right-of-way and the other direction were blinking green. It's freaking crazy.
Damn. Also, can I add some swear words just to keep in line with that?
Add some swear words to yours. And yours is really long, but it's fascinating because it's a outsider talking about his story, so I had to include it.
It's long, but it's good, y'all. That's what she said.
Hell yeah.
So, I experienced a pretty frightening event when I visited my friend in Hawaii last March. I've always wanted to share the story here, but I've just never got around to doing it. Anyway, here's a little background. I met my friend, let's call him Melko, while I was in the Marines. Excuse me. He's native Hawaiian and I'm from Southern California, and we were both stationed in the Mojave Desert for about 3.5 years. Oh, that's a crap hole. Mm-hmm. We became pretty close. We ate, worked, shit, slept, and drank together. Anyway, I got to know him pretty well, so believe me when I say this guy was super spiritual. He believed in all these crazy Hawaiian legends. He was really respectful of the land, hated how outsiders were causing the Hawaiian gods to be angry, thus erupting all volcanoes. One time, he was pissed drunk, and I was helping him get to bed. When I reached to grab him, he started to fight me and started screaming, "Please don't curse my family." Me and my other buddies always found it kind of funny and gave him shit for that. All in good fun. Anyway, you get the point. We both got out of the military in last year, and we've always talked about me going over to Hilo, where he's from, to visit once we were out. He wanted to take me hunting, cliff jumping, all sorts of crazy stuff like that. This guy was crazy. So last March, I flew out to visit my dear friend. Just a couple of days of being there, nothing strange happened. I loved it there. It was nice getting to see Melko, getting drunk, going swimming, seeing turtles, sea turtles, and all that happy horse shit. On the third night there, he decided to go boar hunting. Geez, that's dangerous. So we got his Jeep loaded up with essentials and started out into the rainforest. We went down this dirt trail for a couple of miles, got out, and began hiking. He used to boar hunt all the time with his uncles, so I felt comfortable, even though we were only equipped with a makeshift spear, a couple of machetes, and some tomahawks. That actually sounds kind of awesome, though, too. I didn't really think we were going to catch anything, just thought it was fun being in the middle of the forest at night. It was pretty spooky, though, couldn't help but think of Jurassic Park. We were hiking probably about a mile out, not on any trail, just making our way through this dense forest. The next part, I swear, is fucking real. Craziest shit in my life. Out in the distance, we hear yelling, singing, kind of like a howling. But it wasn't from animals. It sounded like human. Melko froze. He was like, shit, dude. I just looked at him. What the fuck is that, dude? Sounds like people singing? I wasn't really scared till I saw my friend look absolutely petrified. I thought maybe it was just some campers, but the yelling got louder, and it seemed like it was pretty fucking close. My friend dropped everything and threw himself on the ground. Dude, get down. He hushed at me. I was pretty scared at this point, so I did just that. I asked him what was wrong, but he didn't answer. The yelling started to get clearer. It sounded like a few dozen people. Then we started to hear drums. No shit, they were beating drums. They were loud, and they were in rhythm. Holy shit, dude, those are ancient warriors, man. Trust me, take off your clothes. Melko then proceeded to take off all his clothes, no shit. He was butt-ass naked, lying face down. He kept insisting I take my clothes off, but I was really confused and thinking this was a prank. But the drums got louder and louder. We were both quiet, and every time I tried asking him what warriors was he talking about, he would shush me. Whatever was beating those drums and making those chants were right behind us in the trees. I don't know how they moved so fast and silently when me and Melko had to fight our way through the jungle. The chants and beats suddenly stopped, and I swear there were people right in front of us watching us. Then I got the biggest chills ever all throughout my body, from my toes to my ears, and we just stayed there, on the ground, silent for a few minutes. Then we heard the drums beating again, only this time in front of us and pretty far away. Then they grew faint. Dude, let's go, my friend said, and he got up with all his stuff in his arms and started running. Yes, running, still butt-ass naked. He put his shorts and shoes on after a bit of running. We sprinted all the way back to the Jeep and booked it out of there. It wasn't until we got back to the house that he started talking. He told me about those chants they were ancient warrior spirits, and the purpose of lying down while nude was so they can scan our bodies and so we can show that we meant no harm. Now I'm a huge skeptic about shit like that. I was raised Catholic and used to be super religious in high school, but I grew away from religion in general ever since then. But fuck, what I heard that night, what I felt was very much real. There was no way that that it could have been some teenagers playing a prank. They moved too swiftly through the forest and covered so much distance. Ever since my visit, I have not experienced anything like that. Anyway, if you're in Hawaii and hear random ass drums in the middle of the night, get naked and stay the fuck down.
Isn't that crazy? That's a military guy. You know what I mean? Like, they don't fuck around and say shit like that.
No.
Like, that was... And so
or it's a really elaborate prank where they're going to have all pale faces naked, right, just face down everywhere at the sound of drums.
Hey, they make their living off tourism. So if they're trying to get rid of people, and it goes along the same lines as just respect for the land. Like, these people have the utmost and ultimate respect for their land. And that's why bad things happen to people that take volcanic rocks from Hawaii. They literally ship them back. Like, they will take a rock they don't believe that, in the legends. And I would never in a million years do that. There's stories after stories. Like, the tourism companies in Hawaii get random packages of rocks constantly, like almost every day, from people who have taken rocks. The second they take them and get back home, shit gets real.
I actually have a story about that for the end of the show, but It's about taking rocks from sacred places, and it's very recent. Yep. So thanks for reminding me. Let me have a minute at the end of this.
Absolutely. And Hawaii, as far as its people are concerned, is sacred. The entire islands are sacred to them. And there's something about that it's kind of like believing, legends, enough people believe that they happen. Like, when you believe enough about a Mothman, there's this huge theory of like chaos magic where enough people believe in something, they create it out of their own energy of belief. And the entire island believes these things, and whether they were real or they're just fucking with us, or they created this to become real. Who knows?
At this point, it is real. Yeah.
And this is really interesting, and this really does speak volumes, Yardley, the one that you're going to tell about a Hilton and what they've done.
All right. So at the Waikoloa Hilton, there's a trail there. If you turn right when you're driving along the road going towards the hotel, you come to a place where there's a cobblestone path. They made that because the night marchers go through there. And people have actually seen them. They left that open for them because they were told by the Hawaiian priests, you do not close that area up because you will be sorry. So they made a cobblestone walkway where whoever is walking on it could walk right through. They listened to the Hawaiians because a lot of things happened when they were constructing. So it's not only legend. In some cases, it's actually reality. In Kauai, where there was an actual trail that people knew where it was, and they respected that. The old Hawaiian people respected that. I'm not even sure if it still exists now because there are so many things that have been built there.
So the Hilton is one example of properties that if you've by chance built a property on this area where some of these paths are, and they're not paths that you can see with the naked eye. They're just paths that the Hawaiian people know because of the experiences that they've seen. And this Hilton, the outsiders come in and try to build, and shit starts getting real and weird things start happening. And so they go to the Hawaiian and get priests to explain and figure out what's going on. And these priests are like, that's because you're building a fucking hotel on a night marcher's path.
Yeah.
And so they respected it enough, and enough weird shit happened that they actually made a path through the hotel for the night marchers.
Nice.
So what's your experience, Moni?
Not completely related, but actually, so last weekend for my birthday, a bunch of friends traveled out to OC and we went up the famously haunted historical Black Star Canyon, which, if any of you remember, we went on a guided tour. Dan and I went on a guided tour over the summer, but it was somewhere where I wanted to take more time and explore, but in a group, because there's still a lot of stupid people who think that they are satanic and doing cult stuff, and you don't want to be just one or two people late at night. So anyway, we went as a big group. We hiked about 4 miles total, and we had a couple of experiences. And just to say that it was related to what we're talking about, the night marchers, there are several places where it is historically documented where basically, like, for instance, some Native Americans took some horses from the pale face, and when they were discovered, they were sitting around the campfire with the horses tied behind them, and one of the white men got trigger happy, and it resulted in a massacre of the natives, which they were just trying to bring them to justice and kind of figure out the horse situation, but instead they kind of slaughtered everybody there. So there's a lot of energy there. They also, it's an area where the white man came and took all the children away from the families and like sent them to their own wives to raise kind of these like exotic pet children. And so you'll hear in the night the wails of presumably of female spirits, wailing for their lost children. So we were up there and we only had one ghostly experience to speak of, but a few people who have never had those before were able to independently kind of verify. There was a bridge, and I talked about this on one of our shows. There's a little bridge there where a spirit that they call Jim or James stands and kind of protects it. And the last time that I went over that bridge, I had been told that, but I wasn't really protecting myself or paying much attention, and ended up with a head full of imagery of these children being taken and families being slaughtered and that kind of thing. And I ended up just bursting into tears in the middle of this guided tour. So before we got to that point, I told my friends to hang back, and I could he stands in the same place and you can kind of see him. It's like a swirling of darker, it was pitch black out there. And so it's a swirling of different particles of lighter and darker energy, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. And almost like if you were to have a dust cloud, only it's pitch black. So how can that be? Yeah. And I went over and approached him, and I'm like, I know you're very strong. I know you're very protective. We're here to be respectful and just sort of look around and learn. And we're cool. We're going to be getting out of here. So please don't hurt my friends. And sure enough, two of my friends who have never really had experiences before came over the bridge and experienced like headaches. And I would say that would be the non-sensitive's version of what I experienced going over my first time. And the headaches were really bad and then just were gone as soon as they finished crossing the bridge. So on the way back down, I was like, look, I was gonna kind of try to hold off his energy. I know that sounds crazy, but to like go over and talk to him myself and let them pass. And at that same moment, some teenagers were bopping down the trail, and they just like go not only right over the bridge, but right through the energy.
Oh and
my so gosh. I'm like, hey, guys, hurry, go. And so I like had my friends run by, basically like go really fast so that these dumb teenagers would basically take the brunt of whatever this spirit was dishing out. Yeah. But then in addition to that, it's really dense brush on either side of this trail. And there's a very real fear. They've had a lot of mountain lion and bobcat sightings up there. And so we could hear larger animals kind of stalking us at different points of this walk. And so, my husband, ever the pragmatic, he doesn't believe in the ghosts, but he's like walking ahead to make sure that we're not, because we came across a scorpion, there's dangerous animals. You got to pay attention. So he was like, there's something stalking us. Let's everybody grab a rock. So we all grab rocks just so that, there's enough of us. There were like 11 of us that if something had come out, we probably could have like been loud and gotten it scared away. But we grabbed rocks just in case something came. We had to throw rocks next to it to kind of get it to leave us alone. And so as we're leaving, I'm like, hey guys, they don't want us to take the rocks. I could just like, they being like the energies there. I'm like, leave, make sure you empty your pockets. Everybody empty your pockets. All my friends turn their pockets wrong side out, move along, happy life. I get to the sweet ass hotel. We're having a little after party, and I'm in my own pocket getting tissues because I was still sick at this point. and I realized I have a rock in there.
Oh,
and I swear that I had removed my rocks and like counted how many I had and took them out. I only had 2. So it probably was a mistake on my part, but the fact that it was still there when I had double checked, that was really strange. And I have the damn rock, and this has not been the best week of my life. So I'm kind of curious if I need to get my ass all the way back to OC to return some rocks to Black Star Canyon.
Yeah, you better take some notes and make sure that shit doesn't go bad and you can't track it back to the exact time.
I know, right?
Yeah. Not good.
So yeah, pale faces, we mess up everything, and we apparently steal rocks from ancient places when we're not supposed to, or we get them planted on us by ghosts. That's my story.
Wanting to sabotage you. It's sabotage. Well, good. Thank you for sharing. So
I should take some photos at least of the little scorpion buddies and stuff that we found.
Oh, yeah. Oh, scorpions.
I posted some to the Facebook page. There's some really legit, like creepy trees that were used for hangings and stuff up there. It's a pretty neat area.
Nice. Cool. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
So that's the legend of the Night Marchers, y'all. Pretty cool, eh?
Don't steal their stuff.
And pee on yourself when you see them. Just kidding.
So that's the new rule, y'all. Don't throw rocks at things. Just piss yourself. It's fine.
That'll show you that you'll know that you respect them and are afraid of them. And then they'll be like, you poor human.
Or you're just too gross to bother with.
They're like, no thanks. I'm not touching you. So I would love if anybody heard this and has had an experience or knows of somebody that had an experience with a night marcher to reach out to us, because I'm absolutely fascinated with it. One of my dreams for retirement is to own a condo or something in Maui or Kauai. I'm looking
within a night marcher's path, or no?
I'll be fine with whatever happens, because I know what to do if they cross my path. So, and I love this island so much. It just, when you're there, you're just like, for me, it's like I'm home. I love that place and I really respect it. And again, there's just no other place like it. It is where they filmed Jurassic Park. So when that guy was talking about, I felt like I was in Jurassic Park, that's because that's where they filmed it. I actually went on a 4-wheeler tour throughout where they filmed Jurassic Park, and it's just freaking amazing.
Did everybody on there annoyingly go do 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 do?
No, actually, we were all not that cheesy about it, but it was so amazing, and it's like it's not even from this planet. That island is just amazing. So this is not an ad for Hawaii. We're not getting paid to talk about this, but I highly recommend it. You got to go at least once in your lifetime. So. So that's the legend of Hawaii, the big one, except for the whole don't take shit from Hawaii or you'll be cursed. That's the main one that everybody knows about. But night
don't
marchers,
take shit from anywhere haunted or you'll be cursed.
No, or just don't take shit. How about that? Like, nothing's yours. This planet ain't, don't just load shit up and be that entitled that you can think you can just take people's shit. So with that, again, please follow us. I am Creepin' It Christy on Instagram, and I do most of the Twittering, so at creepin_it on Twitter. And Yardley, where can we find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at militant_marker.
Awesome. And Moni?
I am Moni Bear, MONIBARRE, across the board.
Awesome. And with that, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Again, get on our Patreon and check that shit out. And with that, y'all, creep it real.